Good morning and or afternoon. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of January, 2022. I'm Brock Jennings.
And I'm Peter Clark.
And this is Intercontinental Media.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you think of this film?
It was interesting. The first thing that struck me was its use of silence.
Okay. Does that mean
effective use of silence?
Does that mean literal silence or no dialogue relying on music silence?
I mean, there's very little music in this movie. And there are periods of no dialogue where the only thing happening is you can hear someone, maybe you can hear someone breathing.
Okay, as has happened now a total of 3 times for the 3 films that we have reviewed, you have picked up on things that I would not have noticed if you paid me. And what do you think the effect of that silence is?
It does a few things. First of all, it's just eerie, right? It creates this unnerved sense because you're left just hearing yourself, which is always unnerving.
Hearing yourself, that's an interesting thing.
Secondly, I think it serves to make it feel more real on a certain level. Like you're really there, because there isn't, I mean, unless you're me and you have music on almost all the time, there isn't a background score to your life.
Peter, is this your way of wanting to share with us what the background score to your life is?
I mean, there's various things. This morning I took a nap to Picaresque by the Decemberists.
I love that you A, took a nap in the morning, but B, that you had music on while you did it. In any case, do you see that eerie silence happening multiple times throughout the film, or is there a
absolutely I mean, most notably in a spot, so in the, for lack of a better term, we'll call it the intro sequence, when the priest is facing the idol of Pazuzu.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. They never name it in the book, in the movie. It's named in the book as Pazuzu, but I don't think they ever actually tell you in the movie it's called Pazuzu.
Okay, so it's not just me having a problem. It literally was never named for me.
No.
This is not my fault. This is not my fault.
But he squares, stands and squares off against this idol. And normally there'd be some big swelling dramatic music, and there's just the wind.
Oh, I remember that. I was still trying to figure out what the point of that scene was. So maybe we should just give, for anyone who hasn't seen The Exorcist, which, who even are you if you haven't seen The Exorcist? But
I saw it for the first time last night.
I know, I'm teasing you. I mean, come on, Peter. When does it ever happen that I have seen a major Hollywood classic and you haven't? I mean, of the two of us, this is kind of ironic, isn't it?
It is.
No, okay, just so we're clear here. But for those who haven't seen The Exorcist, it opens in the Middle East, and I'm pretty sure it's in Israel. Is that right?
No, it's in Iraq.
Okay, it's in Iraq. And is that something I should have known? Or how would I have known that that was Iraq and not Israel? Because even when I saw the Muslims gathered for worship, that could feasibly be in Israel.
Yeah. So a lot of that, so I read the Wikipedia article. which
Well,
helps.
aren't you just special?
But one of the things I picked up there, a lot of the stuff I picked up, I realized. So The Exorcist was a book first.
Yes.
And so you probably, I think you're expected to, a lot of this stuff is in the book more explicitly.
Now I feel vindicated for why books are always better than movies. Our 5-year-old debate, both personally and publicly. I suddenly feel vindicated somehow, and this is the one time I never bothered to read the book first.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, so but it's not that I missed something in the movie. Is it at least understandable why I'm sitting there going, I think this might be in Israel.
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay,
I think based on the traditions and what was going on, I thought it was in Iran because it seemed Persian to me.
is that because of the Muslim?
No, because of the Muslim, because of the way
presence?
the tea or coffee was being served. Various traditions. I grew up with a Persian neighbor.
Okay.
In when I was not grew up, but in high school, I had a Persian neighbor.
You know what my problem is, Peter? I
What?
mean, one of many, but my problem for this particular moment,
Mm-hmm.
I took 8 pages of these damn notes.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that my 8 pages of notes caused me to miss the movie. like let's just take a moment and appreciate that irony.
Yeah. I do want to say though, I'm proud of myself for nailing it as Persian because Iraq is a Persian culture as opposed to an Arab culture.
Okay. Yes. Right. Yes. I'm proud of you too.
Shout out to Fee.
I'm proud. I'm proud of you. I'm glad you know and or knew your neighbor. I'm just a little disappointed in myself that I didn't pick up on the fact that the priest was doing battle with an idol. I picked up on the fact that the statue was an idol. And I also picked up on the fact that in the first opening shot, it is not in Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
but the first opening shot is Reagan's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the statue, unless I'm much mistaken, is Mother Mary. So I did pick up on the difference in statues between Mother Mary and the idol, and I wondered if somehow it was supposed to imply that statues fight one another between good and evil. I could not understand all
Well,
these
there's
statues.
symbolism. I mean, there's symbolism there in statues and what we venerate and what we give power to and things like that.
Okay. The priest doing battle with the idol, though, is
I
that
mean, not like
Bob
doing battle, but like facing off against, like,
facing off against the idol? That's the last scene that takes place in Iraq,
yes.
right? I'm just trying to figure out if the movie says it was in Iraq.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, because I even have Desert Heat of Israel emphasized opening chant already gives the film a religious feel. I was so sure this was in Israel. Well, I'll have to change that if we post my notes publicly. Um, although although this time, I mean, these are just I looked at these and I thought, I wrote so much I don't remember what I watched.
Academic problems.
I was trying not to be an academic, but once an academic, always an academic, perhaps. Um,
Perhaps.
in any case, the priest facing off with the idol in Iraq, is that Father Marin?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's what I've always thought, but I never can remember. I've only seen the movie twice, so I shouldn't say never. No, 3 times. But that would make sense to me. So it's not Damien, in other words, because it can't
No.
be Damien because Damien is too rational and Western.
Well, and Damien's too young. I mean,
Wait, was that?
he's Marin's already an older man when he's doing his archaeology.
Okay, wait, pause. Marin's archaeological stuff that he is doing in Iraq.
Yeah. Happens before the movie starts.
Yeah, but how
Yeah.
many years before Reagan is possessed? Do we know?
No, it's not very many.
Okay,
It
so it's not like, oh, 20 years or
no.
okay.
Yeah.
Title of this episode: Brock goes to Peter for help on how to watch movies.
In fact, it's supposed to be taken. His encounter with the Pazuzu idol is supposed to be taken as a sign that he will soon be doing battle with the demon in an exorcism.
Now, how am I supposed to know that?
I don't
How,
know.
how am I supposed to know that just looking at that thing? I mean,
To the
even I can tell there's something wrong with this statue, but how am I supposed to know it's going to matter for later in the movie? That's asking too much of me as a viewer, particularly when I struggle with visual media, as you know.
yeah, no, this movie requires strong visual media skills.
Again, I ruined it with all my note taking,
Probably.
but I may have some interesting things to compliment you.
I'm sure.
I'm drinking wonderful organic fair trade hot chocolate, by the way.
Ooh, fun.
Rather, I was, but now it's all gone, sadly. Um, so you you and I spoke last time that this film was like the compromise between what we both were interested in, a
Hmm.
compromise between an incredibly well written story and very well written, a very well filmed
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
Having viewed The Exorcist now, do you think that that description holds true?
For the most part, I think it would really help one to have read the books. The book. I mean, there are multiple books, but the book in specific.
Oh, I feel so vindicated right now.
Not because I think books are inherently better than movies, but because I think there is storytelling that happens in the book that is clearer than in the movie.
Oh,
Right. So, like, I don't think you need to have read The Shining to appreciate the movie The Shining. In fact, I think having read The Shining might make you frustrated with the movie The Shining.
yes, Stephen King hates that movie.
Um, so that's an example where I think where the book and the movie are two very different things,
Mm,
and one isn't necessarily better than the other because the
mm.
movie is amazing.
Well, the movie
Um,
is an amazing piece of cinematography. I'm not sure it's an amazing story.
I think it's an amazing story. I think it might not be the story Stephen King wanted to tell,
Well, then it
but
can't be an amazing story if he
it's
didn't tell it.
but Stanley Kubrick told an amazing story, just differently.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll put my claws away. I'll be the cat on my mug and not a ferocious tiger.
Yeah, one of these days we're going to get you to watch a Kubrick movie.
I've seen Kubrick movies, so I can't remember. Oh, Eyes Wide Shut with Tom
Oh,
Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
that hardly counts. I
That's a
mean
Kubrick
early.
film.
I mean early Kubrick. I mean like 2001 or something
Oh,
like that.
okay, that's a classic. I could do that.
That is an amazing movie.
And I won't take any notes because I think we'll upload these notes for the viewers, for anybody who's interested. But I think this is the last time I'm going to do it because the as long as we're doing movies, if we're doing
Yeah,
other media, then
yeah,
maybe I'll do it again. But I'm understanding now, just on episode 3. This, by the way, this show was not supposed to be Brock learns how to watch a movie, but it's sort of turning into that. um I mean, I'm understanding how important it is really to see what's going on and the subtlety of the camera. And I
Hmm.
noted that a couple of times in my notes, like Damien's facial expression. When Damien celebrates the Eucharist, his facial expression says he believes it for the first time. It's not just a rational act that he repeats.
Yeah.
And he begins to believe that, when he breaks that bread and says that that's the broken body of Christ, he really knows somehow, in a way that he didn't previously, that that broken body of Christ is what's going to sustain him through the battle with the demon that he has to do.
Hmm.
You can, I think that subtlety of facial expression, and that's when I realized anew the real power of a visual medium. Um, it does something that you can't do in a book,
Yeah.
or you can't do with handwriting. You can be incredibly descriptive like Stephen King is, but it's still not the same as seeing it in an actor's face.
Yeah. Or so one of the there's a great shot in this movie after Damien kills himself. Spoiler.
Oh my God, Peter, you ruin everything.
I know.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to be so mad. Anyway, go ahead.
Um, where it's what's called a crane shot, where the camera goes up on
Mm,
the on I can't remember the lieutenant's name. Anyway, the
mm,
police lieutenant.
I can't eat. He's so unprofessional. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, but it just cranes up on him, showing his loss of power.
Oh, that's what that shows.
Yeah. Because he came
So,
into that room with authority and power, and he thought he finally had everything figured out, and then he sees this girl crying in the corner. He sees the dead priest. It is all stripped away from him.
wow. And that's something else that you really can't tell in a book.
Right.
Um,
2 seconds, one shot, that much story.
mhm. And I missed it. I think it's because I didn't know what to look for, Peter.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm asking, and at the risk of bringing theology, and I think we can do that for this movie.
Hmm.
I was asking the question at that point of the movie. So did God or Satan win? Like, this is the apocalyptic struggle between God and the devil. Who was victorious in the end? I don't think the movie answers that question.
I don't think it does either.
I think it leaves it open.
Hmm.
I would situate there is no Easter Sunday. The movie leaves you in Holy Saturday somehow.
Right. Well,
Um,
because Damien has taken the demon into himself and then killed himself to defeat it.
mhm. And that's very interesting. And I noted that, actual exorcists, I think, would take umbrage at that part of the film.
Well,
Uh,
he's definitely gone away from the normal rite at that point in time. He's I'm trying to think. He doesn't have in himself the power to fight the demon out of this girl.
mm. But by taking the demon into him, my then question, and this is also a question that's unanswered, but it's my speculative question. Does that mean that Damien now somehow belongs to Satan? Right? Damien
No,
is a
because
bet.
it's a sacrificial act.
Ah, okay.
At least that to me that's the answer that the movie gives us and the book gives us here. Um, there's a later movie where Damien comes back.
Did you watch that one?
No.
Okay. Same actor, different actor.
Same actor.
Oh. What's it called?
Exorcist 3.
Oh Lord.
I forget what the subtitle is, but
I think one Exorcist. Why are there all these sequels? I don't understand it. I really don't understand it.
Legion. It's called Legion. That's what it was. It's called Legion.
Lovely. Um, does so I think the notion of an apocalyptic struggle between God and Satan is an interesting hermeneutic to use for this movie. And I think also this movie shows what Hannah Arendt called so famously the banality of evil.
Yeah.
Reagan is possessed solely from using a Ouija board. It is a harmless, innocent act.
Yeah.
And look at what happens to her because of it.
Yeah.
And it ruins her mother's life for at least for a time.
Mm-hmm.
She's already being raised by a functioning single mother because they're separated. Took me forever, by the way, to figure out if Chris and the father were divorced, separated, or if the father was dead. And then finally I got the direct answer. Took me forever to figure out Chris's name, by the way. I really struggled with names in this movie. I got spellings wrong. I don't know. I don't know if the names were weird or if they weren't addressed right or what was going on, but
they didn't use names a lot.
yeah, that also was problematic for me because I was trying to keep track of the characters. Peter, did I watch this movie like I was trying to read a book?
Probably.
Viewers, please learn from my mistake and don't do that. That's a bad methodology for understanding The Exorcist. Okay, I failed because I'm trying to do character linkages. I'm trying to do some kind of analysis of what's Reagan's family life like that the evil enters into, and it's almost like I'm trying to see this movie as a text.
Yeah.
And it wasn't serving me well. But the problem is, it served me very well for Wes Craven. Very, very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I did for that film, I think helped me understand it in ways that I hadn't, even though I'd seen it 100 times.
Yeah. I think go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. I think it's interesting in terms of you talking about her family life and things like that, and what Reagan herself represents, and the actress that played Reagan, Linda Blair. When she came into audition, they found her sort of affable but not extroverted, adorable but not beautiful, very sort of not like the gold standard of child, but a very good child. Right? Not, you talk about the banality of evil, but there's a that's part of it, is that while there are things that are imperfect about Reagan's life, there's no tragedy to be played upon there.
Right. And that's exactly why I referenced Hannah Arendt's phrase, is because I also wasn't saying, although there is a sense of struggle with the father's absence, right? And it's also implied that Chris works a lot. By the way, right. I figured out Chris's name was Chris like an hour into the movie. Like, seriously. My notes keep saying Mrs. McNeil or Reagan's mom. I didn't know what to call her. It was so frustrating. And for Father Marin, I had to Google it as I was watching the movie. I had to Google on my phone the Exorcist cast. And then when I did that, I said, now Brach, Why didn't you do that at the very beginning? Why are you waiting until now? You would have saved yourself a lot of suffering.
I watch a lot of these movies with the Wikipedia page open.
Um, Interesting. Maybe I should try that. That's an interesting method. Do you watch these movies with headphones on?
It depends on the movie, and it depends on what my family is doing. If I watch it at home by myself, I watch it on the big TV, no headphones.
Mm.
If they're home, I watch it on my computer with headphones.
See, I almost always, unless I'm sitting in my chair that I was in last week when my camera was moving as much as Halloween. Sorry about that, viewers. Please forgive me. That was trying to record on an iPad. Never again, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Unless I'm sitting in that chair and using an external speaker, I almost always watch with headphones because I want to hear the background noise of the soundtrack. One of the reasons I use studio monitors is because in films or TV shows or music, I want to hear somebody screw up and the birds chirping when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I have a really high quality sound bar on my TV down here in the basement.
Well, I don't doubt the quality of your sound bar, having known you for so long. But isn't there something about having it just right here? I mean, for me, I just can't replicate that.
There's for music, but for movies, part of the movie experience, if you go like see it in a theater, one of the big things you're going to get in a theater is the bass that like thunders your chest.
Oh, I hate that.
Love it.
Oh, I
Love it.
utterly hate that.
Live for it.
We found a difference between us.
I forget where we were.
I forget where we were too.
Names. You're having trouble with names in this
Yeah,
movie.
um, I was, and I think that goes back to the wanting dialogue that actually told me who the characters were, right?
Right.
An ability to follow along and not get lost in, well, who is this now? And it's just too much for me.
Yeah, I think this goes back to like, so there are this goes back to actually the problem with movies that might be too true to the book.
Oh, now he's going to get vindication.
Because this movie is really true to the book from everything I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, the book has no dialogue telling you that it's Father Merrin in the beginning. They just tell you it's Father Merrin. Books rarely in dialogue address the character by their name because it's expected that people just know who that character is.
Books expect you to know who that character is?
Right, because it'll say said Chris.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And then we know who Chris is.
Right. But if you're true to the book, a movie can't say da 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 da, said Chris. You'll just go da 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 da.
With a added for effect. Right. All right, so maybe you win our debate then, which about this books versus movies thing, which I think you and I have been having since we met.
I've not been trying to say one is better than the other. I'm trying to tell you that they're very different things.
Well, maybe I'm trying to say books are better than movies, and I'm running up against your no, Brock. You can't make that comparison really, because it's like comparing apples to paper clips.
It is comparing apples to paper clips. You can make a red paper clip, but it's not going to taste very good. If you paint an apple silver, it'll taste even worse.
And probably kill you in the
definitely can't hold paper together.
Yeah, but you know me. I like to try to do impossible things, and then I get disappointed when they don't work.
I know. I know.
You've been trying to get me out of that habit for 6 years, and I'm still not listening. Maybe
Oh,
maybe by the time I'm 40, maybe
maybe.
I don't know if I kept the idealism of the 20s or what. Maybe I just wasn't possessed by a demon. Maybe that was my problem. You just need a little demonic possession to make you feel better.
Oh God.
Um, let's talk about Linda Blair's acting.
Yes. That was actually, they were very concerned about what age to cast that character as.
And she was young, wasn't she? She was like 12 or 13.
14.
14. Not a huge difference.
No. But they interviewed her and she had read the book.
Lord Jesus.
So she knew what she was getting into. She knew what was going on. She and was still capable of having a little bit of fun with the character, as it were.
Mm, mm.
So, and the thing I read credited her with great spontaneity.
I wonder if she improvised some of those more infamous lines.
No, none of those were improvised.
Okay.
I think more just like on keeping the mood from getting too dark on set kind of things.
All right. All right. Yeah, I don't know much about her. But I did see an interview with her, or well, with the cast and
Yeah,
like everybody talking. It was a more recent thing. And by more recent, I mean like 20 years ago, but more
right.
recent than this movie, which is like
Yeah,
50 years old. Isn't it? I mean, isn't The
yeah, yeah.
Exorcist from like 1972?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's not. Let's look. Always good to know. The Exorcist film. Oh, 1973. I was really close. Like, that was close enough to almost get a prize.
There you go.
This movie is 50 years old this year, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Did it feel like a 50-year-old film to you?
I think it could have still had the. Let me think about that. 50 years old. It definitely by the mid 2000s would have felt a little dated. It certainly did not have the shock value for me today that it had for people watching at the time.
Oh my God, when she vomits on him though, that still shocked me.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I jumped. Well, of course, remember me, I'm writing down my
right.
stupid notes all the time, and oh man, I jumped. I'm glad I didn't knock water on my computer.
That'd be good. Yeah, no, don't do that.
I've already done it once.
I
Once
know.
a year.
Oh God, hopefully not even that often.
Kidding. Yeah.
I mean, it was a little jumpy, but it wasn't like scary. It was like, oh, that happened. Okay.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It was but I wouldn't call it a jump scare, if that makes sense, right? I mean,
Right. No, absolutely.
it was just a, well, that was unexpected, and it was almost like the demon was mocking Damien, right? I won't
Yeah.
name myself. And if you look at there's a modern day exorcist. His name is Vincent Lampert. I call him my favorite exorcist, and he's got YouTube stuff that you can look at, and he'll say that really, as an exorcist, your goal is to get the demon to show itself, to name itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the demon isn't going to want to do.
Right.
And so I almost wondered if the vomiting on him was a sort of over the top demonstration of that basic premise in exorcism.
Right.
It's another question why Brach has spent hours upon hours upon hours watching a modern day exorcist, but we won't go there.
Well, Actually, for me, the most disturbing scene was the angiogram. They
Really?
put the needle in her neck.
Yeah, why
And the
was that
blood starts.
disturbing? Oh, interesting. My most disturbing scene was of course the crucifix scene.
Yeah,
That was and I won't repeat any of those lines publicly what she said, but that the perhaps the violence that she was doing to herself with the crucifix was a bit Hollywood-esque, but what she was saying about Christ at that point would be apparently accurate to what a demon would do.
yeah,
And the vulgarity of language as well, and um utter filth.
yeah. And that's all
um
in the book too. That scene is in the book.
oh, well, I have to admit it was very well filmed.
Yeah,
It was very well filmed, and see, I still find that scene um I don't know, there's just there's a line for me
hmm,
at that kind of behavior that I just find, and this is not a criticism of Hollywood, I think it's accurate if there is in fact demonic activity, that I just find utterly despicable.
yeah,
Utterly despicable. And they're, you are talking, you are blaspheming the word that created all that is. There is nothing more horrid than that, and that is, by the way, reflected anytime you murder a human, or you discriminate somebody who is oppressed, or all of that. You do that similar kind of blasphemy, by the
yeah,
way. So I'm not just limiting that to literal demons. There's the system thing going on there too, but
yeah. And I guess for me,
I
I spend enough time inside sort of like the punk rock edge of the world kind of scene stuff. The like blasphemy doesn't bother me that way anymore.
Are there people in the punk rock scene that would say the things Reagan was saying?
Yeah,
I would have a lot
they're not mainstream, but there are.
I would have a lot of trouble associating with those people, honestly.
I didn't associate with those people, but I was around those people.
I would even have a hard time being around them.
Yeah,
I would even, I don't know. There's just something that's a no-go for me. If you ever wondered if Brach had a line, you just found it. And some of that um really got tested somehow in that movie, which is what, by the way, tells me it's a good film,
hmm,
right? To look at it from the other side, um that's that I was so disturbed by that. Out of everything in the movie, it was that I was um just
yeah.
just
For me, the
I don't
most
have a word. Yeah.
it's for me the most disturbing thing about that was her age.
Well, see, that was, I can understand that. I can, and I think probably most folks would be on your side on that one. For me, age doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It was what she said that I just said no, no. And obviously, it's not her; it's the demon.
right.
Right, right. I'm not saying this is Reagan's fault, but that's just that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, no, I get
um
that.
and I'm not a prude, I'm not a I can go down all the list of things I'm not, but that found my line.
We've all got one.
It took me till I was 34 to find my line, but I found it. um well, yeah, all right, so her age, and that she's doing it's, I mean, that's shocking in and of itself.
Yeah.
Or the one line that I would repeat that Reagan said in those moments is the following: "Your mother sucks,
Yeah.
Karis."
Yeah.
And the reason I'm repeating that line is not for the shock value, but to show there that it's a great example of the demon playing on what the demon has picked up on as the priest's biggest weakness. And at the beginning of that scene, Father Marin says to Father Karras, I think it's the beginning of that scene, the demon is a liar.
Yeah.
Or have I maybe I've mixed up my chronological
No,
order.
I think you're right. You're right. You're right. Because he says that before they go in for the exorcism. The demon is a liar.
Yeah, right. The demon is a liar. But Karras has just lost his mother. For some reason, he's got guilt around that. I don't know if he feels like he wasn't
Oh,
there for her.
no, but it's because she lives in this tiny tenement apartment, and someone else actually says, I don't know if it's his brother or the person he's talking to about how his mom's being cared for, that if he weren't a priest, he could be a high paid psychologist, psychiatrist, and his mom could be living in a penthouse. And
Yeah, I
so
remember that.
he feels guilty about the state his mother is living in. He feels guilty about the fact that she has to go to this public living facility that isn't very good. And then she's mad at him because she doesn't want to be there. She wants to be in her house, and she dies alone, and he thinks that she dies angry at him.
Okay, thank you for that. You've clarified that for me then. But in any case, the demon uses that against him, right? And
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking, oh, sorry, did you have something
No, I
else?
just my
Okay.
ear itched.
Oh, well, that's okay. I was thinking back to Jesus' saying in the Gospel of John, where he calls Satan the father of lies.
Mm-hmm.
The demon is a liar. The
Mm-hmm.
father of lies is Satan. But at one point, the demon says, "I'm not Reagan. I'm the devil."
Yeah.
Did you like my demon voice? And and I actually wrote in my copious overdone notes something about, is this really possession by Satan, or is the demon yet again doing another lie because the demon is refusing to name itself?
The demon's
And
refusing to name itself.
okay, yeah, and it's very cheap in a sense, right? To
Mm-hmm.
say I'm the devil, right? Because everybody's gonna think, oh well, she's possessed by Satan, but actually, uh, she's not. And as long as it's thought that she is being possessed by Satan, the demon is not gonna name itself.
Right.
And so one of the things that I was a little disappointed in the Exorcists about was, to my recollection, it's only Damien that asks the demon what the demon's name is. And he doesn't push it further after that one scene. And I thought, well, you're not going to get the demon to leave her if you don't get the demon to name itself.
Well, in that one scene, in the scene where I am the devil.
We really like imitating that, don't we?
It's fun. He's still not convinced that it's that it's a possession.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get right, and in fact, the fact that the demon identifies as the devil is evidence against it being a demon possession,
Which is probably exactly what the demon wanted, by the way.
right? They had not yet gotten. So again, this is my rudimentary understanding of exorcism and how it works. You have to make it through the Roman rite first to weaken the demon before you can ask the demon its name.
I forgot that little snag.
And so they're making it through the Roman Rite, and they make it through the Roman Rite. And then Father Merrin has a heart attack.
And see, I thought, I read his heart attack, by the way, as Merrin cannot deal with his own doubt. Merrin believes that the power of Christ working through him, but actually turned the other way around.
Yeah.
He bringing the power of Christ. He makes it too much about him. Will be able to cast this demon out. And he has never actually faced the amount of doubt that Damien has. And then, of course, I thought about Paul Tillich and his brilliant book, Dynamics of Faith, where he talks about the dialectical relationship between faith and doubt. And in that sense, Damien is actually the better exorcist.
Now, Merrin has no doubt.
That's his problem. That's his problem. If you ain't got any doubt, you can't have faith.
I don't think that's where the movie's going, but that's an interesting. I think in the movie he's just old and weak and dies.
Okay, well, maybe I tried to see something that wasn't there. You know, I am a systematic theologian. I'm notorious for doing things like that.
I know you see Paul Tillich in the bushes.
I do not see Paul Tillich in the bushes. I see Karl Barth and Rudolf Bultmann in the bushes. Okay, and Paul Tillich. Oh, fine, you're right as always. In any case, though, I do think that's an interesting reading of Merrin's character. Now, I'm not sure that I can, you're making me doubtful as if I can sustain my reading, but you know, doubt is a part of faith, so I might press on with it just for a second. But if that's the case, if Merrin really, you say he doesn't have doubt, but I want to say rather, what if the problem is that Merrin doesn't think he has any doubt, but actually he's full of doubt? The demon takes advantage of that. It's why it doesn't work.
If he doubts anything, it's his ability and his age, not his faith or anything like that.
You won't let me have any fun, Peter.
Well, I mean, because the movie's not about Merrin's doubt.
Precisely.
The movie's about Karras's doubt.
The movie's about Karras's doubt, absolutely. But I want to say that Karras's doubt is actually a part of his faith. And that's why, in the end, he calls the demon into himself. Merrin never would have done that.
No, Merrin would have continued on in the battle. And we're told earlier his last exorcism lasted like a month.
All right. Well, you don't agree with my reading. I worked very hard to find Paul Tillich in those bushes, by the way.
Threw him with a stick.
I really, really tried, and I still think I can. I really, if the overall hermeneutic from which one approaches this movie is the apocalyptic struggle between God and the devil, I think my reading then is in fact sustainable.
And here's what I'm going to say. I don't think this movie is about the struggle between God and the devil.
Well, Jesus Christ is certainly called on a lot for it not to be.
I think the struggle is between humanity and the devil.
Yeah. Well, if the struggle is between humanity and the devil, we're all screwed. Is that what the movie's implying? Wait a minute. Let me go here then. The struggle is between humanity and the devil. Humanity is calling on God. God ain't anywhere to be found. You can kiss a crucifix. You can call on the name of Jesus. Hell, you can say all the Trinitarian prayers you want. Did you notice how Trinitarian those prayers were? Because I did.
Well, yeah, it's the Roman rite.
Well, yeah, but I mean, could you make a movie like this today? There was so much Trinity, so much Christology. And I mean, would that even be possible anymore? Is what I was wondering.
I think
But
so.
all right, you're more optimistic than I am.
I am. It's true.
But anyway, you can do all this stuff with ritual, with, I almost want to say, longing for a Deus ex machina.
Yeah.
But all you get from the movie standpoint, and maybe this is what makes it an example of postmodernism, or rather post metaphysics,
Mm-hmm.
is an open question of, did God really cast that demon out?
Well, the God never does cast the demon out.
Exactly. So from this view, the apocalyptic struggle between God and the devil would be rather the absence of God in light of the devil's roaming around the earth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And all we have then is a promise. But the promise of God in Christ was found to be open and unverified.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's about Holy Saturday in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, there's hope in it, right? I mean, Father Dyer still gives Father Karras his last rites,
Mm.
right?
Well, I think there's also hope in it that Regan lives,
Yeah.
right? And that lieutenant, whatever the lieutenant's name is, he's so unprofessional and he's so lonely. He just wants somebody to go to the movies with him. Oh my God, that's all he wants. like like you can't help but feel sorry for the poor guy, but it's like, God, this movie is so existential.
Yeah. Yeah, it
and
is.
and I think some of that gets lost, by the way, when they're making Linda Blair turn her head around 360 degrees.
Hmm.
Like some of that, and when the letters "help me" appear on her chest, that was too much for me in a different way than the blasphemy against Christ was too much for me. The "help me" on her chest was too Hollywoody.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Hollywoody?
Hollywood-esque.
Hollywood-esque. Thank you. Like Hollywoody. That just not sound right. Um, it was too much. It was, and I didn't think that by and large. I thought they did a good job
Mm-hmm.
of not just making it about cute special effects, right? Because if this movie is really trying to do a larger message about the power of evil,
Mm-hmm.
they need to keep the tricks and showmanship to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, in other words, is this movie believable? And for me, somehow it was believable until the "help me" appeared on the chest.
Hmm.
But what do you think? Was this movie believable for you?
In some ways, yeah. I think is an interesting commentary on the failure of modernism.
Oh, that's excellent. The failure of modernism. So, Peter, do you think there are such things as exorcisms?
I've performed a couple on spaces, not on people.
Oh boy, I know some spaces that can use an exorcism. Um, but do you think exorcisms on people are effective?
I don't know. I struggle with that.
I have come around to saying I believe that is possible.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to look like Linda Blair with her pea soup, by the
No,
way.
I don't think so. No.
Maybe that was the other scene, even though that was the scene that made me jump. I had to read that scene symbolically at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's a symbol of the refusal of the demon to name itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I have come around to, partly through your influence, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
to accepting the possibility of such things in ways that I would not have 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I do watch this modern day Exorcist on YouTube. but see, this, what's interesting is that he will say an exorcism is about the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
An exorcism is not to be not to fascinate you about what the devil can do,
Right.
or what demons can do. It's
Right.
always about the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say the best movie about exorcisms or is not this one, it's The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
I haven't seen that one either.
Well, maybe we'll have to watch that at another point. But
Yeah.
that's the one that he says is more accurate to what he has seen in his own ministry. Or how and what an exorcism is, that kind of thing. But his concern actually is that people will watch The Exorcist and think that's what he does all day long, right? Linda Blair and her pea soup, and that's just not, that's not what's going on. But I was fascinated to learn, Peter, that there are called exorcists in the Roman Church.
Absolutely. And it's not uncommon for them to have some background in psychology or psychiatry as well to help determine whether or not an exorcism is actually called for.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about this movie is they literally did exhaust every other possibility and then they go for it. But you kind of but the irony is, Damien himself thinks that this is a psychological problem, and I'm going, have you looked at Reagan? Because if I saw something like that, I would not be saying that's a psychological problem. I'd be going, that's a demon. like it almost reminded me of Agent Scully's more stubborn moments in the X-Files, right? Like, how many times does something have to stare you in the face before you go, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah. All right, we should wrap it up there.
We should. So for 2 weeks from now, we will stay a little bit on the theological, but for the last time for a while. 1976's excellent masterpiece, The Omen.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one either.
With Gregory Peck.
Yes, with Gregory Peck.
Please forgive the movie, Peter, because they say the book of Revelations too much drives me nuts.
It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you.
It bothers me so very much.
I know.
Until next time, I'm Brach Jennings.
I'm Peter Clark.
And this is Intercontinental Media.
You're not good enough for Beverly. You're not good enough for anything.